Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, and today I'm going to be working on a Penn Squall 40 lever drag fishing reel that was brought in for service. This is a big reel. It's about the size of a 4.0 Senator. It has a 5.1 gear ratio, and it's a lever drag, as we mentioned. We're going to show you how to take this reel apart, how to service it, and how to get it out there fishing again. This one comes in from Joe. Joe sent me about 6 reels. It's end of season. He figured let's get them tuned up for the beginning of the next one. And well, it's a good thing to do. You want to do your reels at least once a year. If you're fishing them very heavily, you might want to do a mid-season tune-up as well. And well, Joe has sent reels in before, and I'm happy to see that he's continuing to send them in. We're starting by taking off the exterior pieces and parts, first the handle. And well, when I do that, I'd always like to encourage folks to subscribe to my channel. If you like the art of fishing service and repair, if you like to see how reels are made, how they come apart, how they go back together again, how they're serviced, or if you just like learning about fishing reels and the various designs, the manufacturers, the times that they were made and so on, then I encourage you to do that subscription. And if you do, I encourage you to use the notification button to let you know when I post. Okay, we have a protective ring over the handle post, gear post. We started removing the lever drag arm. That starts by removing the nut cap, and then this should just kind of pull out here, and this is your assembly. There's a couple of tension washers inside there, so if you see some washers fall on the floor, you know where they are. And a couple of peaks here. We'll show you how that operates the lever drag in a moment. So those peaks, you'll see that there's 2 indentations that correspond to those peaks here, and as you raise or as you move the lever drag, that peak is moving up the ramp. As it moves it up the ramp, it pulls the spool in more. You can see how the spool moves. Pulls it in to connect the various tensions with the pressure plate, and that's what gives you the drag. All right, I don't think we need to remove the ramp, but we do need to remove the floor screws. It's been a while since I did one of these, so if you have any questions when you do these, stop, go get the schematic. Or in my case, I probably should go back to a video I may have done earlier on a comparable reel. But the schematic will give you the burst diagram of the reel, and you'll see, for example, with this, if that's just the ramp it's holding with a spring set for the stops, or if it's more to it than that. I seem to remember that it just holds that spring assembly together there, and you do not need to do that as part of the service. When you take these screws out, check them because they're not the same. There's 2 that are rough threaded, they go in the corners here, and there's 2 that have a machine thread on them, and they go through the posts here in the frame. If you don't pay attention, you can well, have it go backwards and strip the slots. Okay, this one takes that last ring out. When I get done with my removal of the springs and that ring, well, I put it into a parts tray for safekeeping. I use a fast food container, and I like to use the corners to hold sub-assemblies. All right, I think there's 2 more screws over here in the back. Yep. I always recommend that you take pictures along the way. Those pictures become invaluable if you get lost in the reassembly. Those pictures will tell you the orientation of the part and the sequence that you took the parts out in. So at critical junctures, take some pictures. That way you know that you have a reference point to help you out. One of the things that's obvious on this reel is made in China, and a lot of the Penn reels are Chinese made today. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2 in the back, 6. That should allow us to remove the side plate, and it does. So we'll see 1 big gear and our pinion gear. It's a single drive reel. On the back here we have a double dog situation, and we can remove that dog assembly by taking the 2 screws out here. I think we can also remove this, but you may need the handle to do that. So let's hold that with the handle. Get a wide screwdriver that matches the screw. Bring that out. That should enable us to remove the gear shaft and the main gear for cleaning. We can stay with this side plate before we go over to the other side. That makes sense. Use your handle as a wrench, as I mentioned, if that becomes an issue. All right, we have a dirty case. When I was testing this, and as you can see from the outside of the reel's been used quite a bit. That's okay. That's what they're designed to do. They're designed to go fishing. But you do see that over time, a reel like this can't be sealed because you have the gaps in the spool. And over time, dirt, water, debris gets in here. And when it does, well, you need to clean it up or it'll start affecting the performance of the reel. There's a bearing in the back here. We're going to oil that. I just tested it. Just use your hand to test it. We have our pinion gear and another bearing assembly underneath here. These all go into that slot. So on top of the ring there, you have a ring that's got the bearing component. Then we have the ring with the track that goes in next. Then we have a secondary bearing. That can all go into that slot there as it pulled out. And we're probably going to need to align that when it comes time to put that pinion gear back in. Just going to try and find a piece that has that shaft that can do that. Okay, we should be able to work on that one fine. We have the pinion gear out now. We want to take a brush to clean that with. You want to run the brush through the teeth to get any old greases and like that. You can see how stuff is coming out here. Once you do that, inspect the teeth. Make sure that they're not damaged, marred, have chips in them, things like that that would indicate rough performance. And once we do that, we can grease that up, grease the shaft up, which is going to go into the bearing assembly. We can put that back in, just like that. Okay, clean your main gear shaft. And then let's do the same with the gear. You can see how the old grease is just aligned. Our washer will go before we put the screw back in. These are nice solid gears, that's for sure. I think they're stainless. And do the same thing here. You can see how the old grease is accumulated in here. So just grab a brush. It can be a hard bristle brush. It doesn't have to be a metal brush. You can use a toothbrush if you don't have a variety pack of brushes. All right, again, do the inspection, make sure that all the teeth are in good condition. And then just put a nice coating of grease on there. Please use fishing reel grease. In this case, I'm using Penn Precision reel grease. Not because it's a Penn reel, but because it's a fishing reel grease. Stay away from the general purpose greases like household greases and the like. Okay. There it is. Almost lost my little washer. See how parts trays help? The washer goes on before the gear goes on. Oh, it goes on the other side. Silly me. All right, let's bring this through. Now we put the washer on. Now we can install the gear. Make sure that it meshes with your pinion gear. Go to your parts tray to get the big screw. And again, match the slot of the screw to an appropriate screwdriver. So I have this big screwdriver that matches. If if you use something that's too small, you risk butterflying the slot, and then, well, future services may become difficult because you can't grab that. Again, I'm going to use the handle as a wrench before I make that last turn to tighten it down. That is the service of the gear side of the reel. It should turn nice and free and easy now, which is what it's doing. Now we're going to set that aside for a moment. Now we'll come over and we'll do the service on our spool and on the drag system. First thing to do is to remove the 2 screws that are holding the anti-reverse on. And this is a good place to take a picture so that you know the orientation of those anti-reverse dogs. If there's one of these that becomes troubling in this particular reel, it's that. So again, there's no instant anti-reverse on this. There's just a double dog clutch system. You can see that they're about three teeth apart, and this whole assembly should just pick up and out now. Put that off to the side for a moment. Then to remove this, just pull up and out on that. I don't want to lose those screws, so those are going to my parts tray. The dog system, I think we can probably leave it where it is. What I like to do when I'm working on reels like this is to put a rubber band around these shock leaders. Not sure why that's all tied up there, but that enables me to put this back in easily when it comes time to reinstall. That line won't get trapped in the frame, which is something that is wont to do. Okay, so that's done. And then Penn actually tells us here, unscrew, go in that direction. It's a left hand or a reverse thread. These usually can be done by hand. Remove the collar and the pressure plate. Inside the pressure plate there is a bearing. You can oil that bearing. We have a spring, good place to take pictures again. Spring into the piece. This drag washer almost looks new. And we should be able to move the shaft out. And I think we want to remove the 2 or 3 screws here because there's a bearing assembly underneath. Well, if you have any questions on this reel or any reel, maybe you're wondering how this reel compares to, say, a Shimano TLD or the like, maybe an Ovid, just leave the questions in the comment section. I will try to answer those for you. All right, I think that cap is off. I'm going to put this back in for a moment because that's going to give us our shaft dynamics here. And just as I was doing it, I lost another one of these. There's a small bearing shield that comes on top here. Okay, these are tension washers that have to do, well, I'm wrong, I'm sorry. This is another one of those split bearing pieces. So you want to oil that. We're going to put that back in. And then we have another bearing here. So they go to that double bearing. On the inside of that, there's a ferrule. On this side, the ferrule meets the bearing on this side. You can see that just came out. That's all right. And I will oil this one as well. All right. I believe that we need to just reset ourselves here. Rolling bearing, bearing, ferrule. Bring all of that in. Bring all of that down and put the collar back on. Use my pick to center one of those holes so that I can get the other 2 screws started. Those of you that watch the channel know that we have fun with these small screws from time to time, and that we don't play very well together. So if you see me fumbling, you'll know it's your signal to go get a beverage of your choice. Come on back and join me when that screw goes back in. All right, well, that one was pretty tame. All right, that's done. I'm going to just snip this again. You get these leaders go too far, they get caught on the rim as they go back into the base of the reel. While you have the reel off, you clean the back. There's nothing oil back there. And then I use a kitchen scrubby, but get something soft. Try and use a rod and reel cleaner. And this is your opportunity to get inside the case, clean that case up, because you won't be able to reach it any other way with that spool in there. So a nice opportunity to take the film and the light that is accumulated on this reel over the course of the season, clean it up. The Penn rod and reel cleaner it's a cleaner, and it's sort of a protectant or a wax or something like that. It is nice. I enjoy using it. The kitchen scrubby's got just the right amount of abrasiveness to knock off the film without hurting the finish. All right, we're back on that. When you go to install this, you're going to see that we have a rectangular side of that stud. There's a rectangular part that's the hold fast in the back. Just line those up, bring them in, and slide it down. Next up then goes the spring. And then we can put our pressure plate on. I probably should have done that outside the reel. Pressure plate on. And then this is a reverse thread again, so do this by hand. And be careful, it's kind of a funky little way to start it. It's got to go on square, and it doesn't necessarily go on square all the time. There we go. Now we're in. Okay, before you put that in, and after you've tightened that up, it's time to install these anti-reverse dogs. These are split anti-reverse dogs. One arm goes on top, one goes on the bottom. Get the first one on, and you should be able to set the second one. That looks about right. We'll bring this whole assembly in. Now your anti-reverse dog is going to mount over here on the frame. Okay, and that's how it sits. Go to your box. Get those two screws that were holding this in. Make sure to tie that down. And this is where pictures help, because one, you want to make sure you have your orientation right, and secondly, the right screws. Because Penn has put about 5 different types of screws in here. You want to make sure you got the right ones in the right places. Well, the only thing really left here is to merge in the pinion gear. So that pinion gear has got teeth on it, and when you go to set this part now, these teeth here have to merge. So it's one of the things we will be doing. If we don't get that merged, we'll be turning it just like that until we get that good snap. Make sure that the case is tight. Find your bottom of your case. It merges with this. Let's bring this over. Merge it down, compress it. Then we can bring the 2 case screws that belong underneath. Those were the last ones I took out. They're the first ones I'm going to put back in. One of the things you need here is a little bit of hand strength. So if you don't have that, one may or may not be in with that piece. There we go. There we go. So that's why I use that to put a little bit of pressure onto that main gear and then lock that pinion gear into the pressure plate. Okay, put the two of those on. We'll install the ring. Bring this back on now. Oh, all I do, there's some old weathering going on there, so let's use that scrubby again. One of the things about that cleaner is it doesn't take much. There's still enough on this scrubby pad to get at all of the exterior parts here. Okay, I'll bring this back on. Go to my part string, get the 4 screws. Now remember, we said these screws are different. There's 2 that are threaded. They go into cross posts. So I'll put those in first. Then there are 2 that have that rough thread. And the rough thread goes into the graphite case. Overall, a nice reel. I think they're selling around $150. I'm not quite sure what the pricing is anymore. But a good reel nonetheless. It replaces the graphite lever drag, the GLD, and some of the other, the lever drag Senator that was out there for a while. And it kind of is true to the Squall line. So I get questions frequently, what's the difference between a Squall and a Fathom? The Squall has the graphite case, the Fathom has the metal case. The internals are essentially the same reel. Sort of like a Penn Pursuit and a Penn Fierce. All right, let's get this last one in. All right, that works. Next step then, let's clean that lever drag. Remember what we said about the ramps and how this is going to sit. You always want to start on your lever drag arm by placing it over in the free spool position. You'll see the ramps, the valleys for the ramps are right here. So you want to take your preset adjuster, the 2 ramps, and you can see there's a 5-sided corresponding to the internal nut. Get those ramps over there, and then make sure it seats like that. Again, there's 4 tension washers in there. If you remove them, no problem. Just put them back in the center. Okay, that takes care of that. We go over to the handle side now. We have the cap, and there is appears to be a washer inside the cap there. It's kind of just a water sleeve. Bring the handle back on. Now, if you're doing this for yourself, you know what handle side you use, whether you have the leverage handle or not. If you're doing this for somebody else, you should pay attention to what you're doing before you start taking the reel apart, because you may wind up putting this on the wrong side. In other words, your customer may have had may have been using the levered side, and you're installing it as a non-lever leverage. Right, there's the 2 slots. This one I noticed was installed on the non-lever side, so we're going to put this back on. And you may need to adjust a little bit in terms of the position of the nut in order to align that screw. There we go. And tighten that down, and that looks like the only piece I haven't gotten with the cleaner. Okay, clean this up. Okay, so it's time for a test. We've started in free spool. Make sure you tighten this to what feels like it's the right. Got a nice spinning reel now. All those bearings have been oiled. Flip it. It stops, so we know we're in contact. It's a little bit light for first contact. Yeah. To adjust, bring it back to free spool. Don't try adjusting in the middles here. back to free spool, and just incremental touches. It's still light. Maybe 2 turns. Okay, that's probably a good first strike. And then you're buttoned down for that second strike. It actually might be just a little too tight. So let's bring it back. Back it off. And again, it's for your preference. Strike 1. There you go. Strike 2. I think that's it. All right. So that's how you do that. And bring it back to let it rest. All right. I hope you've enjoyed that. It was a fun project to do for Joe. And, well, for everybody who's been watching, I hope you've enjoyed that and I hope you've learned how to service this reel. And if you have one, now you know how to do it yourself, which is kind of what this channel is about, teaching you to do it yourself, keeping your equipment all tuned up, ready to go so that it doesn't disappoint you when it's time to take it fishing. I want to thank our first responders, our police, fire, safety, rescue, all of the folks that are dedicated to keeping us out of harm's way and making a career of it. I also want to thank all of our viewers, all of our subscribers, and those who've yet to subscribe for watching this. If you enjoyed the video, please like it. And again, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and please hit that notification button. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, wishing everybody a great day.